So today I'm here with Mallory. Mallory, can you please introduce me to your current role and what you're working on?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm Mallory. I work at Thrasio, and I'm executive creative director. So, I focus a lot on leading the creative vision and strategy for our portfolio of brands. So, we have about 50 brands that we're focusing on. And my role really is around ensuring that our creative output really aligns with the brand objectives and making sure that we're reaching our target audiences and driving business growth through creative decisions.
Perfect. And what is Thrasio doing? Like what
Yeah.
is the business?
So Thrasio started in 2018 as an Amazon aggregator. And so we were buying well-performing brands that were already selling on Amazon and then owning and operating them and expanding them into brick and mortar or other online retailers. So over the years, we've been building that up. And then, this year really is signaling a little bit of a shift. Thrasio went through bankruptcy earlier this year, so we're kind of reorganizing our mission and we're evolving into a house of brands and really focusing in on our top performing brands. And that's that set of 50 that me and my team get to get really energized about and figure out how to drive business growth for. So the company's been through a lot of different changes, but that has been remained constant is building great brands and growing great brands, and it's been an awesome experience, honestly.
Yeah, and how long have you been in the company?
So I've been here since 2018. I was the eighth hire at the company,
Really?
and so I've kind of seen it through every wave of change, which has been a huge learning experience.
Yeah, and how is that like you're also part of the growth and building teams? Like what are your biggest learnings like from this time?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many to hit on, but I think that like when Thrasio started, like I said, I was like the eighth person. In the beginning, it was just me doing a lot of the work. And then we got enough fundraising to kind of start hiring and building out teams across the company that were really needed. So through that, we've scaled up. I've had upwards of 150 people on a team, and we've scaled back down. I think that's all part of this normal growth trajectory that Thrasio's been through. I think the biggest things that I've learned as a takeaway from all of this, there's so many, but I think the biggest one most recently that I've been reflecting on a lot is the power of collaboration. So I think when we got so big, it was very easy to get siloed. So the creative team focused on creative, the marketing team focused on running ads and campaigns and all of that. The brand team focused on product development and optimizing that. And then now I feel like we've just really collaborated in a nice way, and some of the best ideas are coming from the most unexpected places. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned is that, communication and collaboration is super key to everything that we do and making sure that we hear everyone's intentions and ideas, and I think with that has come the importance of like adaptability in our work. Like adaptability is not just a skill, it's like a mindset. And I think that adaptability really allows all of the challenges that we go through to become opportunities. So reorganizing a lot of the different teams that we have done over the years wasn't just a challenge, it was more like a chance to overcome obstacles that I may have accidentally put in place as a leader, like over processing, certain communication styles, how we did project management. There's just so much that over the years I feel like I've learned from this whole roller coaster of, Thrasio and its amazing growth and scaling back down and simplifying.
Yeah, yeah. I think one thing is growing, but also like scaling down is a completely different challenge, and it's a part it's a part of business and yeah, everything. But I would like to go over to your more like personal inspirations, and I'm curious, like what got you into the creative industry?
So I've always been interested in art since I was a kid. My older sister came home with a art history book, textbook from college, and I became obsessed with flipping through it. I found Monet and I like a whole new world opened up to me. And so I became really interested in painting, and then that kind of turned into, an 8-year-old's dream of becoming a fashion designer and all that different stuff. And so when it was time to go to college, I decided to find something in the creative space that would set me up well for a career, but still fulfilled my desire to put something beautiful out in the world. And so I got my degree in graphic design, and that was a great experience. I went to St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. And so from there, I just started my career doing various internship programs. I worked in DC at the Trust for the National Mall, which was a nonprofit, and really kind of learned how creative things within a business world worked. So, it was a lot of designing flyers and invitationals and that kind of stuff, but seeing how it impacted the greater business was really cool. And then I got my start as an intern at a jewelry company, and that's really where I understood consumer products and e-commerce and building websites and taking product photography, videos, and running campaigns on Facebook. So that's kind of where I got my start, and it stuck, and I love it, and it's become a part of me now.
I'm also like you found out art was your passion, and then it kind of get more and more like professional, and you do your degree and all that. How do you balance? I know some people find it challenging to like balance the passion side and then the business or professional side, that it can kind of crash sometimes. How's that been for you?
Yeah, I've had to. That's probably another big learning over the last couple of years, is having to be really intentional about my work life balance, because working in a creative world is very draining, especially when it's not for yourself. And so I learned over the couple of years that personal projects directly impact the energy and inspiration that I can bring to my professional creative work. There is actually even a program that I'm kind of going through right now called The Artist Way. It's a book that was created, I think, in maybe the 80s. I don't know the background on it, but actually I have the author right here, The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. But the whole thing is about every day, it's like reconnecting with your inner artist. And that's something I feel like I've had to do, especially just being so creatively drained by work. And the whole concept of it is that you wake up every morning and you journal 3 pages of anything that can come to your mind. And then every week you take yourself on a solo, they call it an artist date. And so it's like going to the art museum or going to discover something cool or sketching, at a public park. And so I think I do little projects like that to reconnect with the personal projects, the passion, and it's helped. Like I have an art studio here in my house, and I try to do that after work when I can, and just find little things that bring a lot of joy.
When you're going through these different phases of like starting as in your education and then going up to like executive creative director position, which where you're now, like
Yeah.
how is that going from like being very hands-on to more maybe leading teams, and also within Thrasio, yeah, not being that hands-on and leading teams, how has that change been for you?
Yeah. I mean, when I was in college and in my studies of graphic design, everything was new. So everything I created was bad. I didn't know what I was doing. We had great teachers and stuff, but I think that over the course of, you know, practicing it, you just have to be willing, first of all, to do bad work. And I think that same thing also applies to if anyone is a first time manager, you have to be willing to be okay being making the wrong choice or, making a mistake as a manager. I think all of that's probably the biggest thing I've learned since college is like, I'm going to make a couple of bad things and it's not going to hit. But if you keep doing it over and over and over again, and I think going into leading teams, when I was first a manager, I made a ton of mistakes. There are so many things, but I think you have to make those mistakes in order to understand how to get better and at it. And I feel like that is definitely what's happened with me going into now managing teams and big teams and small teams.
Yeah, have you had any role models in like from when you started out or today? Do you have any people you look up to?
I have a ton of different people that I look up to for different reasons. So, from a business perspective, a business aspect, Stephanie Fox was CEO of Thrasio, and I've known her since 2015 when I started at her jewelry company. And I think that she's an incredible business leader, entrepreneur, and I think that's what I've learned a lot of, leadership values from and how to manage difficult situations. And that's been an amazing like person to observe and learn from, and then creatively, I've got friends in my circles that they just live and breathe this creative life. And I take a lot of energy from both of those to be able to channel it into being a creative director, because you kind of have to have that balance. You can't be all business all the time. And in a creative space, you also have the vulnerability of being a creative person. Like, that's an inherently vulnerable thing. And I think if you can have both, then you can build a lot of trust with your creative team. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you still paint on your free time, like
Mm-hmm.
time off, and yeah, what do you do to stay inspired and keep like the passion?
Oh, that's a great question. Sometimes it comes from a space of emotion. So there's one practice I learned, or just, I don't know if I even learned it or I just made it up, but when I start with a canvas, it's almost like I'll use it as a journal and just start writing and paint everything that I'm feeling in one moment. It could be super happy, it could be super angry. And then from there, it just becomes a process of letting whatever happens on the canvas happen. And then other times, I want to be really intentional with my artwork. So I'll come with a sketch and a vision and a doodle or whatever it is. And I don't know, every time's totally different. I wish I could say I even have a style. I don't necessarily have that. I kind of just create in the moment and I let myself do that.
And how do you think art, like doing this very freely, separates itself from design, for example?
Separate itself from what?
From, for example, when you work with design.
With design.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I like painting, because it's okay to make mistakes and stuff. In design, especially when you have a team of designers and we're all being very critical of our work and we're having to do very public critiques on, this is working, this is not working, here's why. I like that balance where painting lets you make mistakes and you just paint over it and you keep going. Design is a little bit harder because you're creating something for a business with intention. It has to be measurable. Like, did it work well? Did it not work well? Here's why. And so you're in the constant state of critiquing either your own work or someone else's work. And it can be pretty demotivating. Like, after a while, I know I've definitely had to, that's a learned skill as a manager, to make sure that I'm critiquing in a way that is empowering them to have autonomy over their work and let them figure out the solution to make it work, instead of saying, like, here's exactly what you need to change and just go make this blue gold and then this font, this color, whatever it is. So yeah, it's definitely totally two different types of creativity, which can be tough.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm also curious about, like, you mentioned the team and like how you uh like lead your teams. What are you looking for when you're hiring people?
When I'm interviewing, well, actually, I'll start from even just the application side of it. When I see a resume, a work portfolio, or a cover letter, I'm really looking for, first, the technicality. Like, do they have the understanding of the skills that are needed for this specific role? Which I think it also makes it hard for people who are applying and maybe not hearing back, or it's really about, is it a right fit for this job that I'm hiring for? They might be perfect for another job at another company. And so I think that's probably one takeaway, is like, don't get demotivated if you're not hearing back from certain types of roles. It might just be as simple as tweaking a portfolio or something to show that you have the technical expertise for that specific role. So if you're interviewing at an e-commerce company, like, I'm going to want to see packaging, I'm going to want to see digital graphics that are marketing products, I'm going to want to see logo design and that kind of stuff. But if you're showing me, book design, I think that's great, but I need to know that it applies there. And so that's the first thing I'm looking for, is technical expertise. And then I'm also looking for personality. So if
Okay.
I'm looking at your website, I want to see what you're like to work with. Do you have any behind the scenes photos? Tell me about a case study of the project. What were the trials and the challenges, and how did you overcome them to get to the final thing? I like to know the process, like, of what someone goes through. And especially if it's a team project, I want to know what your specific role was. For example, video commercials are a great example of, like, I want to know what a producer did versus the video editor versus the videographer. And then maybe they all made great decisions that were outside their role. I want to
Okay.
know that. I want to know how they're contributing in other ways. And then when I'm interviewing with them, I kind of ask them about that. I like to know what your role in certain teams were and how you collaborate with others. It's a lot more about being a good team member, I think, once you have the technical expertise nailed. It's about how do you fit in with the group. And one advice I got a long, long time ago was, someone else was telling me, like, we like to interview people as if they're someone we want to have lunch with at work. Like, do I want to sit and have lunch with this person? And that can be a hard thing to quantify, but I think the biggest, for me was show your personality. Don't be afraid to show your personality, because that's much more attractive than like being a robot who's just answering the questions like the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I heard similar, like other ECDs mention this, like keep the interview more like conversational, like
Mm-hmm.
conversation. You get a sense like where this would go. I would like to go over to your work. Like, do you have one thing that you're very proud of?
One? No, many. But there is a project that I am really proud of that's specifically done at Thrasio. And I think it's one of those that I really got to see the reward of taking chances and being more not risk averse. And that was our brand Angry Orange. So it's a pet cleaning product brand. But what is really great for me is when we bought this brand, I was at the company for a couple of months. It was really early in my time at Thrasio. And we bought the brand. It only had two SKUs. And they were designed in a way that looked like it was kind of made on like word art, or like, something that wasn't made by a skilled designer. And so since then, we now have like over 15 products, and we've rebranded it twice. But I think that, and it's also like in brick and mortars, it's all over in different online retailers. It's really been incredible to watch the brand go from the ground up. But what I feel personally proud of is doing that initial rebrand of the product. It came in not looking super great. We went through probably 30 different iterations of different concepts we could go with. And I think there's one moment in time where the creative strategy that I was reporting to really wanted it to be like in an amber bottle, like a brown bottle. And for me, it just like wasn't working. It wasn't hitting. And so and he was really specific about it. He wanted it in a brown bottle. So I did this whole presentation of all these different concepts, probably 30, 35 concepts with a brown bottle. And all of them were getting the response of like, okay. But at the end of the presentation, I kind of took a moment to show him like my more risk prone ones, which I made the bottles like neon orange. And I was like, if we're going to be angry orange, we should go with an orange bottle. And like, I don't know, it was something he didn't ask for. I was new in my career, not my career, but new at this job. I was kind of scared to take the risk. But I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do things he didn't say to do. And then that ended up becoming the brand. And we now exclusively have mostly orange bottles. And that's like our identifier on the shelf. And it's kind of become core to the brand. And so that was a successful project for me on like taking risk and just taking a chance and going for it, even if you're not asked to do that. So.
Yeah, wow. And how early was this in your career?
Well, so Thrasio, this is 2018, and I probably have been in the job as a creative lead for a month. And I had only known this guy over Zoom because he was in Massachusetts, I was in Texas. Kind of an intimidating situation, but yeah, I think I'm glad I went for it and just took a chance instead of doing exactly what someone else asked of me from a creative perspective, because, you got to take risks.
Yeah. And how do you kind of measure the effect of something like that, going for something bold? Like, how do you know that you succeeded after, for example, with this?
Well, this one specifically, I mean, now we have 15 products, and we went from like a $2 million brand to over a $20 million brand. So I'm going to take that as a win. But of course, that wasn't just the designs, but it was something that was received really well from the team and from all of our retailers and wanting to feature it in their stores. And that's how we built out additional product lines and stuff too. So I take that as a win, as a really broad win. But we also did a lot of testing too. So there's a tool called PickFu, and it allows you to do just very simple poll-based responses. And running those polls really validated my decision. And when I was able to show, even in that presentation, like I went ahead and ran a quick $50 poll and showed that the amber bottle scored 10 points, but the orange bottle scored 40. And, it was a nice little win there to be able to prove that your ideas, paid off.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's also hard to kind of know exactly how to measure stuff like that because it's also like about things that you can't measure always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's fun to talk about like things that have gone well. Do you want to mention anything else? Any other projects that you're proud of?
I mean, we have a lot of different products in our portfolio at Thrasio that I'm really proud of. And creative plays such a it's a small but big part at the same time. Like there's so many other operations happening at the same time that help a product be successful. Like hate stains, for example, is one of our cleaning stain removers. And yes, we set the branding, we set the tone, we have great copy, we have great visual, great photography. But then on its own, in partnership of that, by standing out with our creative, the influencer team at Thrasio was able to help it propel into this viral sensation on TikTok. The mom talk community has just taken hate stains and run with it, and they're always posting organically about our product and how it removes stains so well. And so that's kind of cool to see all the cogs in the machine working at the same time and it getting kind of like a lot of recognition. And then another one of our brands, Nippies, actually it's a pasty cover for outfits and more formal events or casual events. And we're in the middle of a rebuild for that I'm really excited for that launch. That'll be coming soon. And we just did a big shoot for it this past week. And I'm really excited for that to come out and hit the market.
Hmm. Fun. That's really fun. And do you have anything like in the future? You are any goals, like things you
Mm.
want to achieve or do or work with?
That's a good question. I have a lot of different ideas for my future career and goals and aspirations. I'm not sure exactly where it'll land me. One fun idea that I really would love to go after one day is building my own like wine label line and maybe even have a vineyard somewhere or something like that. I think it would help bring together all of my career experience of like marketing products and building a brand and then also communicating or building a community. I think is something that I really like. I like having people in person gathering together, enjoying wine or whatever it is. And so I feel like that's probably something I'm going to aim for in the future is like building a place that is a community for others to gather, but also brings together all of my love of like building a brand and selling products and all that fun stuff too.
Yeah, what kind of wine would it be? Red, white?
Well, I love a red, so to probably focus on red, but I'd like to have offerings because my sisters do not like red, so I need something for them.
Yeah,
So they'll have to have a rosé or a white.
yeah. That's really interesting, and the community part too. Like, I think that's such a big part of the creative work. Like, also what you mentioned initially, like the power in collaboration. How do you have any advice for people starting out in this industry today?
I think starting out can be really intimidating. Like they say that there's, what is it, imposter syndrome is a very real thing. And I think everyone's felt it at some point. I think that if you can master pushing past that and owning your space at a company or in your role or your offerings as a freelancer, then you're going to be more impactful than if you stay quiet, stay in the background, just do what you're told. And I think that would be my advice is like master pushing aside that imposter syndrome feeling and own your space. Because that's how you get your seat at the table. That's how you learn more from the leadership or others. That's how you find mentors. So have a voice, use your voice. That's the best I could say.
Interesting. And what do you think about like the industry in general now with creative work and all these digital AI tools? And where do you see things going in the future? Are you positive?
I do feel positive. I think that there's a lot about AI that is good. Like I've used ChatGPT, for example, as a huge brainstorming tool. That has helped me kind of get outside of my like brainstorming bubble and learn like, oh, I never thought about that from that perspective. I get a lot of objective brainstorming from that. That is helpful. As a final creative output, if someone only creates a video with AI or produces packaging with that. I'm not sure where that goes yet. I think I definitely see the pros for brainstorming, for ideation, for getting you to the next step. But I think it still takes a huge level of creativity to bring it all the way home, to make it something that actually connects with people and makes a purchasing decision. So even from the videos and stuff that I've seen, they're good. They do talk about the product, but there's always still needing to be a human element. One of the best ways we've seen AI being utilized from a video perspective is really when we gather a ton of influencer content or user generated content, and then we're using AI to cut together the best pieces of that content. That's great, but we still need that human advocating for our product, and that's a huge part of it. I think that will be lost if we continue to only rely on AI as a final output. Great
Mhm.
in the beginning, but I think we still have to have people drive it home, and I hope that remains for eternity.
Yeah, hopefully we can do more of the fun work, and then AI can do the boring stuff like
Sure.
editing and like the time consuming
Yeah,
things, hopefully.
definitely. Yeah, we definitely need help. It's a great help. It's such a load off when it can help cut together some of the best. But we still need to put in the work on the front end to make it human.
Exactly. Exactly. Been a pleasure talking to you, Mallory. We're going towards the end. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I mean, first of all, this has been great. Thank you for having me on the podcast. This has been really fun. Final thoughts. I think just remember to invest in your people if you're a team lead. Take risk if you're new in your role, and just continue to be adaptable. That's the only thing that's constant in this world is change. And so if you can be adaptable, then you've mastered it all.
I think that's a great way to summarize the conversation we've had, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.